If it's not the right time in pre-sales, then you nurture and you stay in touch with them and you make certain that you develop that relationship. And then when it is the right time, they're ready, and then you sell it to them. So it's really like no harm, no foul in pre-sales if it isn't the right, one of those three conditions aren't met. But in post-sales, if you suggest a product to someone who doesn't need it, they're like, who are you? Why are you trying to sell me? I don't trust you now. You're trying to sell me something I don't even need. Or if it's not the right person, then they're like, well, I don't know, deer in headlights. I don't know if I'm the, you need to have the right buyer that you're talking to in order to have the right relationship. So you're going to the right person. Or if it's at the wrong time, again, they're like, why are you doing this? Why are you selling to me? Why are you selling to me now? You don't even understand me. You don't care about me. And so in any of those things aren't right, then they lose trust, right? And you have to trust somebody in order to buy from them or to work with them. So now you're trying to fix that relationship because you can't just go out to the marketplace. You have these customers, they're your book of business, right? So in that respect, it's not that you can't sell, it's that have you identified that it's the right person, the right product, in the right time.
Yeah, sometimes customer success managers, we want to sell in the first meeting. It's like, should we give the first kiss in the first date? Right? So should that be the right example? I'm not sure. Help me here enough. But what do you think about
the whole concept of you buy them a coffee before you take them out for dinner, right?
Yeah. But I mean, normally you don't sell in the first call, right?
Okay. I actually know of some folks who in the onboarding process end up identifying that they haven't been sold in all of the right products or all the products that they actually could use to make them successful. So it's not that you can't identify it early on, but at the same time, if you have any of those three conditions that aren't met, if you aren't talking to the right person, if you aren't telling about the right product that they actually need and is going to help them be successful, or if you're talking to them at a time when they're not ready to buy, then it doesn't make sense. Mm-hmm. So it's not that you couldn't do it even in the first meeting that you have with them as a CSM. If what you're doing is you're asking those discovery questions, you're actively listening, you understand what their needs are, and you say, hey, I see that you're expecting to get these kinds of results and outcomes, but you don't actually have our tool that would help you do that. We should talk about that some more. And then they would be like, oh, wow, really? Yeah, no, I need these outcomes. So, okay, well, let's first talk about these things that you can do and blah, blah, blah. And then let's talk about these other things too, because then what are you trying to do? You're just trying to help your customer be successful. And in that process, you help your company be more successful too. There you go. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think that one of the challenges is the traditional CSMs that have come up through their career and become strategic CSM and things. The way the traditional customer success was all value based. It was all talking about what's good for the customer. And when I started in customer success, the mantra was you're the extension of your customer's team, and you fight the battles for them, right? That mentality is shifting quite a bit in the industry because, with the focus on sustainable growth for SaaS products, the go-to-market strategy is to land and then expand. And then expanding piece is really important for CSMs to carry. So I think when we talk about selling and talking about sell as like a concept for CSMs, it becomes this, fear of, but that's not my job. Like, how am I supposed to do that? And the reality is, I think we need to, first of all, I think every interaction that you're having with the customer, you're reselling some value of your product, whether it's the services that you offer or the value that you're trying to prove with the product that you've sold to them, which would have been done in the pre-sales process in a different sort of format anyway. So the idea that when we look at things like business reviews and making sure that we understand what the long-term value of a customer is, and then trying to align up product mapping and things like that, what you're actually doing is pseudo-selling the future value. And with that comes expansion opportunities, things like that. What we're talking about now really is standardizing this in a way where it's actually fits with a company's go-to-market strategy, where you're landing in one value proposition and then having CSMs drive that level of expansion with a number to hold. And that's where we start to lose CSMs, when we say you need to own a number to be able to drive that.
Well, okay. First of all, when you're talking about the advocacy part at the very beginning of what you were just saying, I do want to make the case that we still do need to build advocates.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely.
It's not that we don't do that as part of our role, but the other is I think that in the post-sales motion, it depends on how many customers you have, right? In terms of if you can sign up for a number or if it's more about projections. If you have thousands of customers, then, well, first of all, that's more of a one-to-many relationship. It's not really a named CSM process usually in that case. But let's say you have thousands of customers, then you can basically figure that there's going to be sort of numbers you can guesstimate that are going to be upsold, right? But if it's where you have maybe 100 customers, and you're trying to give a number, if it isn't based on something that's a projection of what you really think is going to happen, then I don't know how signing up for a number helps your process at all. Because then you're trying to sell something to customers that you may not have those three conditions met. You may not be selling to the right person, the right product, in the right time. It's like, well, I've been signed up for this number to get to this by the end of the quarter. It's not the right time for the customer, but I'm going to try and meet my quarterly objective. Well, then you're meeting your own objective. You're not meeting your customer's objective. Then they don't end up buying, or they don't end up trusting you. They end up trying to move. They end up churning and those kinds of things, right? And so then that doesn't help your company anyway.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, definitely. And now we're going to jump into, because it's time for those challenges that everyone is waiting for. So let's go into the challenges. What challenges are you going through when it comes to upselling and cross-selling, or selling in general, and negotiating? The challenge number one of the day is mindset shift. With shifting the mindset from reactive to proactive can be challenging sometimes. We keep wasting time doing what support is there to do. And I'm not saying that we should not do some reactive tasks. It is important as well, but we have to keep more a proactive mindset. So I have a question here, Jan. What are those proactive tasks that can help increase the possibilities for selling to our customers? Now, you gave a really good formula, but is there any specific proactive task that you would recommend to those customer success managers listening right now?
Well, yeah. And actually, the topic that we're doing tonight in CS Office Hours is around metrics, right? And part of what you need to do as a CSM, and Erica Villarreal, who's going to be co-leading it with me, has a really great spreadsheet that she's created intended for CSMs. And she has a video that goes with it. And it's all about how you manage your book of business, right? And so the proactive thing that you can do is manage your book of business, to understand who needs to renew, who needs, who might be just in a good place to be able, you might be able to expand or upsell, cross-sell something to them, right? And so if you're tracking these things about your book of business, then whether you do it on the Excel sheet the way that she has, or if you have other tools that will help you manage that, you should be proactively setting your agenda with your customers, as well as proactively listening to them on what their agenda is, and understanding then where the opportunities are in terms of their business agenda as well.
That's yeah, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it. And I think one of the things that CSMs can easily put into their normal sort of day-to-day process, especially talking about value and future value and things like that, is to understand where they fit best with where the opportunity and propensity for expansion and additional revenue is. And I think just, I guess, what would be very helpful, and those who are listening as well, there's training out there that you can get on how to look for that, right? Because that's sort of where, you want to try and upskill a little bit to make sure that, when you've got all of this incredible information that you've got from your customers, how do you actually use that to understand where your opportunities for expansion are, and then being able to drive that through? And that brings us into the next point, which is, even when you look at things like renewals and expansions, negotiation is obviously a big part of that, right? And there are lots of different frameworks I've seen where CSMs or CS teams identify opportunities and then potentially pass it on to a sales team, or they do it themselves. But to a certain extent, I think there's, a certain level of negotiation skills that are required within the CSM team, especially, if you're doing renewals. I've, even when I was an individual contributor, trying to convince somebody to renew on the same product, for the same pricing, especially when you were going through COVID and everyone's saying, we don't have as much budget, it required a lot of negotiation skills. So based on, the fact that, some don't actually feel comfortable with the negotiation with their customers, how do you see, I guess, developing negotiation skills? Like, where does it start for a customer success manager? First of all, how should they upskill? And second of all, how should they even approach a conversation like that with a customer?
I love that you brought up negotiation skills, because that is something that, there's so much out there. Certainly there's books out there like Chris Voss's Never Split the Difference, or there's a classic, Getting to Yes, right? Those types of things are, should be part of how CSMs think of upskilling, so that they better understand how to, actively listen and engage. Bob London also has a lot of guides out there that he's provided, where you can just look at different kinds of intriguing questions to ask your customer to try and elicit more information, right? And so when you're thinking about it, the more information that you have, where you understand if it's the right moment and understand what's important to your customer, but then also the skills that you build up that are actual negotiations.
That was today's CSM Quick Lesson. For the full conversation and more practical tips, just go and check out today's episode description, where you will have the link to the full conversation. Remember to hit follow. Also follow us in their social media, and you can also go and check out our new website. Remember, keep learning, keep growing, and let's keep improving the world of customer success. Until next time.